What's up everybody, Commander Sanctum here, and today we have a brand new deck tech using Squall, SeeD Mercenary. Squall is a 3/4 human knight mercenary for 2 white-black that has, whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains double strike until the end of turn, and, whenever Squall deals combat damage to a player, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Squall has a super powerful ability, being able to reanimate permanents from the graveyard when he hits, Sun Titan style, and works best in a Voltron style deck, since each strike hit from Squall will reanimate a permanent if you get through to an opponent. For this deck tech, we'll be adopting the strategy alongside a specific restriction. Every non-land card in the deck will cost exactly 3 mana, other than Squall himself. That's right, this will be an Oops All Threes deck, since Squall cares about cards that cost 3 or less mana. We'll use equipment and auras to buff Squall up and give him some evasion, include some great creature-based removal that can be recurred over and over, and some card draw that synergizes with our reanimation theme, all of which will cost exactly 3 mana to cast. With that, let's get into the card highlights. Since we're going for a Voltron-esque theme with Squall, we need ways to buff him up a bit. Anduril, Flame of the West, Buster Sword, and Butcher's Cleaver all help with this significantly, giving +3 to his power when equipped. They all have their own separate effects as well. Anduril will net you a few attacking tokens when he attacks, the Buster Sword will draw you a card and let you cast something for free, and the Cleaver will gain you a ton of life. Throughout this deck tech, it's important to remember that cards that do something on damage, such as the Buster Sword or Squall himself, can trigger twice, thanks to Squall's double strike ability. This means something like the Buster Sword can net you 2 cards and let you cast 2 spells for free, as long as Squall hits the opponent with both strikes of damage. Outside of simply buffing Squall, we want to make sure he can hit our opponents as consistently as possible. This is where Evasion comes in. One such form of evasion is flying. Demonic Embrace and Herald of Torment are 2 such examples that can give the enchanted creature flying, alongside a decent power boost, making for excellent Voltron-style cards to use with Squall. Gift of Orzhova only gives +1 to the enchanted creature's power, but also gives flying and the ever-important lifelink, making for a great way to make sure your life total is high enough to withstand any attacks from opponents. For other forms of evasion, we have Loxodon Warhammer, which gives a nice power boost, lifelink, and, most importantly, trample, letting you hopefully hit your opponents with both strikes of damage, depending on what they can block Squall with. Bilbo's Ring is an excellent synergy with Squall, since it also has an attack alone trigger, netting you a card if you do so. Not only this, but it gives hexproof on your turn, and the most important text on the card, unblockable, letting you hit your opponents no matter what they have. Unquestioned Authority basically has unblockable, but takes it a step further, since it's protection from creatures. This even means that Squall can't be targeted by any creature's ability, helping protect him from potential removal. It also draws a card when it enters, making it a nice cantrip that replaces itself. There's a great set of equipment cards that cost 3 mana in the Swords of cycle. While you could just run all the swords to give Squall protection from pretty much everything, I tend to dislike throwing them all into a deck just for variety's sake. That being said, they do fit very well with our theme, so I included 2 of my favorites, Truth and Justice and War and Peace, in the deck. These are very good for obvious reasons, since they not only buff Squall and give him protection from various colors, but also each have their own combat damage triggers that do something useful on hit. And again, since Squall can have double strike, this means he'll trigger twice if he hits an opponent, giving you extreme value for cheap. There's also Plate Armor which, while not giving protection like the swords, does give the equipped creature Ward 1, making it more resilient against targeted removal. Speaking of being resilient, any Voltron deck's biggest weakness is going to be the star creature being persistently removed by your opponents. To help mitigate this, we have a number of options to help protect that creature from targeted or even non-targeted removal. Champion's Helm, Whispersoul Cloak, and Celestial Armor can all help with the targeted removal aspect of this, since the equipped creature will gain hexproof or shroud when they're used. The cloak is doubly useful since it also makes the creature unblockable, exactly what we want with an attacking Squall. Celestial Armor even gives the creature indestructible when it enters. The fact that it has flash and equips for free makes it a great response to a board wipe or targeted removal, while even giving the equipped creature evasion with flying. Mithril Coat also has flash and auto-equip, but only gives indestructible, making it useful against any destroy effects, but not much else. For more general protection, we also have Lapse of Certainty, a great white counterspell card that can save Squall from a board wipe, targeted removal, or anything else that might negatively impact your strategy. For 3 mana land ramp spells, we have a personal favorite of mine, Burnished Heart, which can give you 2 lands once it's cracked, and makes for a great recursion target for Squall if you find yourself running behind on lands. Another great effect for when you're behind, Claim Jumper can net you up to 2 planes depending on the board state, even letting you get those non-basic planes to fix your mana perfectly if need be. Bitterthorn Nissa's Animus is a good way to buff Squall slightly, but really shines in the fact that you get to tutor up a basic land on attack. Since we want to be attacking anyways, this is a nice payoff equipment to make sure we can continue casting our 3-drops in ever-increasing amounts each turn. For removal, we'll start with a few more creative sources to get the job done. By that, I mean creatures with edict effects. Fleshbag Marauder, Plaguecrafter, and Demon's Disciple all enter and make everyone sacrifice a creature, or discard a card if they can't in the case of Plaguecrafter. The great thing about these is that, since they're all 3 mana, they can be reanimated with Squall's ability, letting you lock down your opponent's boards so long as you can hit with Squall. The even better part is that, since Squall will have double strike, you can even reanimate one of these on the first strike damage, sacrifice it, then reanimate it again on the normal strike, forcing your opponents to sacrifice 2 creatures, all in the combat step. For non-creature removal, we have Lauren of the Third Path, which will immediately destroy an artifact or enchantment on entering, and can even be a source of card draw if you need some in a pinch. Grasp of Fate is a great way to get the most pesky permanent from each opponent when it enters. If it gets destroyed, it'll be easy to reanimate thanks to Squall's ability, making for a great source of at least temporary removal. Stroke of Midnight isn't something that Squall can bring back, since it isn't a permanent, but is still an effective form of removal for whatever you need at the time. For more board wipe options, we have one of the best black ones in Toxic Deluge, which can take out anything and everything you want it to when cast. Since we have a few Voltron pieces that give a creature lifelink, the life cost of Toxic Deluge may not even be a big factor in most cases. There's also Split Up, which is a modular board wipe that we can use to our advantage, depending on the board state at any given time. For card draw sources, we have a number of them that give us an advantage in more ways than one. That is, not only do they draw us cards, but they can get permanents in the graveyard that Squall can then reanimate when he hits. Atrocious Experiment and Funeral Rites both draw us 2 cards while also making us mill 2, meaning we'll be able to get some, hopefully, good reanimation targets into the graveyard when casting them. Dire Sight is similar to these, but rather than milling 2, lets us surveil 2, meaning we'll be able to choose whether or not these cards go to the graveyard. While Squall does let us reanimate lands if need be, the fact that this is surveil means we can pick and choose whether we want the cards to go to our hand or go to the graveyard, making it the most powerful of the 3. Fang, Fearless Lassie, synergizes very well with Squall, since Fang will draw us a card whenever something leaves the graveyard. Since Squall reanimates permanents, this will trigger Fang, making for a very effective source of draw. It is unfortunate, however, that Fang's ability only triggers once a turn, meaning we won't get an additional card from the double hit of Squall. Still, it's good enough to include. Black Market Connections gives us pretty much whatever we need at the time, whether it's mana, card draw, or a creature, or even all 3. Infernal Idol is a mana rock that can be sacrificed to draw some cards. Since it's a 3-mana permanent, it can also be reanimated with Squall over and over again if we really need to draw some cards. Speaking of mana rocks, there's quite a few good options we can use at 3 mana. Most players are generally opposed to 3-costed mana rocks, considering them inefficient since there are so many 2-costed ones, but frankly, I enjoy the utility they provide, and this deck is the perfect place to play them. First up, we have Blitzball, which, like Infernal Idol, can give us mana while also providing decent card draw when needed. Coalition Relic is one of the old school mana rocks that can give you a slight boost in mana for a turn, making for an excellent way to power out an additional 3-drop if need be. Sonic Screwdriver is a great utility mana rock that even has a mode of making a creature unblockable for 3 mana, exactly what we want with an attacking Squall. Like the Sword cycle, there's another good cycle of mana rocks that cost 3, and that's the Bobbleheads. Bobbleheads work better the more you have, but even with just a few, their effects should not be overlooked. Strength Bobblehead is a great way to buff our Squall up with some counters. Endurance Bobblehead can make sure he survives in combat. And Agility Bobblehead is a great way to make sure Squall can attack as soon as he's played, while also being effectively unblockable in most situations. There are also a number of good utility cards that synergize well with our overall themes. Bastion Protector is yet another way to help protect Squall, whether it's in combat or from some sort of damage-based removal. Dauthi Embrace can make Squall unblockable for a cheap cost of 2 black mana, providing probably one of the best ways to make sure you can consistently hit your opponents with them. Forge Anew is one of the best equipment utility spells you can play, letting you reanimate an equipment, equip at instant speed, and even giving you a free equip once a turn. To get more reanimation targets into the graveyard, there's Buried Alive, which will let you tutor up the best 3 creatures you need for any given situation, to then be reanimated when Squall hits someone. Cemetery Tapering provides for an excellent source of mill each turn, very easily and quickly building up your graveyard with juicy targets for reanimation. Taval's Judgment is another leaving the graveyard source that can net you a card, mana, or a creature token. This one isn't limited to once a turn, meaning if Squall is able to hit fully with Double Strike, will net you 2 of these options each time you attack with them. Here's an example deck list utilizing all the previously mentioned cards. Additional cards include more Voltron-based equipment pieces in Quietus Spike and Catechist Staff of Hermes, more card draw and ramp spells in Canoptic Wraith and Read the Bones, and additional removal in Merciless Executioner and Generous Gift. Squall's Exalted ability that gives the creature Double Strike reminds me a lot of an old school commander, Rafik of the Many. Back in the day, this commander was an absolute monster to face against, and killed many an opponent from out of nowhere. Squall takes this a step further, since you get to reanimate a permanent whenever you deal combat damage to an opponent, letting you get back your best cards from the graveyard. I really do love the restriction in this deck as well. Does this mean we're using Squall to his full potential and making a top tier deck? Of course not. Restrictive decks are more about the fun deck building than being the most powerful example of a commander deck that it can be. That being said, that doesn't mean this deck isn't strong. Squall himself is a very good commander, so even with restrictions such as this, the deck can do a lot of work. My one biggest regret with the restriction is that it means I can't pull Squall's weapon, Lionheart, into the deck. I mean, come on, why not make this thing cost 3 mana to stay flavorful with Squall? In any case, if you're a fan of a Rafik of the Many style commander, or just like reanimation and restrictive decks, then this is the Squall deck for you. I hope you enjoyed watching this deck tech on Squall, SeeD, Mercenary. The full deck list outlined in this video can be found at the Archedeck link at the top of the description. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to drop a like and comment, as well as subscribe to the channel for more Magic content. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.